What's up, guys? So this is going to be the side deck tier list for this format. Start off with Lancia. In my opinion, Lancia is a D tier side deck card. The main reason being that while it is okay, especially if you're playing like Drytron or something to search it, I don't think there's ever a situation where you should be side decking this unless it's like easily searchable, because so many decks can very easily kind of play around it and stuff and don't care about it. And there's just way better side cards you can play. So yeah, this format as well, there's very few side deck cards that you should really be playing because it's almost solved in terms of the side deck. So yeah, Scythe as well. So I don't think you should be doing Sanctum Scythe plays in your side deck either. So Scythe is a good card, but you don't side deck Sanctum in my opinion. I just don't think it's worth it at the moment. Dark Ruler is going to be A tier. It's very, very needed right now. We do have a couple of buildable decks that if you don't have Dark Ruler, you just lose. DD Crow is going to be B. In my opinion, if you can main it, main it. I don't think it's worth siding. I think there are better choices to side at the moment. Lightning Storm is really, really good. Yeah, Despia, Sword Soul. Despia, not for their monsters but for their spells and traps. Sword Soul is really good against. Flunder's really good against. The Punk variants it's okay against. Dragon Link it's not amazing against, but yeah, it does hit a lot of decks in general, and just being able to trade hugely with your opponent is great. Denko is another one I say if you can play it, play it. If you can't, which you probably can't, you don't need to worry about, but it is a good card because it will stun Backrow, which is great. Panktops is still a really good side deck card, and I'm always surprised that people don't play it more. I guess because it's at 1 and it's not reliable, but it is really good, and just having that 1-for-1 trade is great into a lot of decks. Now, the issue with Panktops obviously is going to be, like I said, it's at 1, and also because a certain match is just dead like Flunder, but I do think you have space, Panktops do play it, it's great. What's nice about Panktops as well is that it outs a lot of cards at the moment. So things like Mirror Jade and defense and stuff, you can Panktops attack over it. They have to chain Mirror Jade, but it's fine. They chain Mirror Jade, you chain Panktops. Now they have to banish something off their field, and you pop one of their back rows. So yeah, Panktops is a really, really good card. Cosmic Cyclone, yeah, side deck it. Back row removal, it's just good in general. Anti-Spell is S tier at the moment. This card just wins games going second, and you'll see at the end of the list why. So many of the strong side deck cards, so many of the strong going second cards are going to be those normal spells and stuff. And so having anti-spell is just amazing because you just turn off all of those. It's basically judgment but for everything. I mean, it's just such a good card. So I really do like anti-spell. I think it's worth playing. Points I don't think is that good. It's nice to have the hand knowledge, but needing the card in your hand and the life point cost, and the fact that it's just a little bit slow because your combo has to have already gone through and then your pointer. Yeah, I don't really like this card. I don't think it's good. I'm actually going to put it in C tier. Alpha's good because Sword Soul's good again, but it's not amazing. It does out a lot of boards though. It's kind of like a worse Panktops at the moment, unfortunately, because it outs the Sword Soul board pretty consistently. However, Despia, it's not amazing into them. You can't summon it against Flunder. It kind of outs Dragon Link, but now because of the board, before when Dragon Link was ending on Seals, this card was amazing against them. Now that Dragon Link is ending on Borland, this card is okay against them, but it's not amazing. What was this one again? This is that one that hits Drytron. It's good because Drytron's good, but I wouldn't play it just for Drytron in my opinion. You can just play DD Crow and that'll hit more things if you're going to play a side deck card. Gameciel is good, but you don't really want to trade 1-for-1 with any deck at the moment. Most decks right now have the ability to plus so heavily that if you try and trade 1-for-1, you'll just end up losing. IDP, really, really good card at the moment. I definitely think this is worth side decking if you can play it, because we have a lot of decks that have the same type or the same attribute or whatever. Whatever it is for Ice Dragon's Prison, they have the same of it, which makes it really, really good at the moment. So yeah, definitely a good side deck card. And people don't expect IDP as well. You don't play around IDP. Some decks can play around it, but very few people actually will because you just don't expect it. So a really good card. Phantasme, unfortunately, is just, in fact, I'll put in D tier. Just don't play Phantasme, to be honest. And I actually put this in D tier as well. Don't play Phantasme at the moment because it's just better and more impactful side deck cards to play, and there's not enough link decks in the format. Phantasme is good when mid-range, slower not even mid-range, more control-y, slower link decks from the format like Saladin, Sky Striker. When the format is dominated by those, Phantasme is good, or by combo decks that do summon like a million links. Now we do have Sun Avalon that does that, but that's pretty much it, and this is still probably not that good against Sun Avalon, so that's the problem with Phantasme. White Howling's okay if you can play it. If you can play it, it's actually a really good card, it's just that most people can't play it. Blizzard is bad. Yeah, I just don't believe the hype. I don't know why Kali Effect is trying to boost up the price of Blizzard. I just think it's overrated. 1 or 2 pro players did play it in a YCS pack, but I think most of the time this card is just not that good. And then occasionally it's okay, but it's like having Blizzard isn't why you won. You just won because you had some sort of interruption. It's not that Blizzard specifically was amazing. Context here is bad, don't play it. Warning Point, it's just not relevant. At one point I thought Warning Point was going to become the new DBR or whatever, but it's just not that good, unfortunately. Same with Get Out, that can just go down. Necro Valley is okay. However, not a lot of decks can play it. So if your deck can play it and you're kind of a field spell deck with like Mystic Mine and stuff, great. Otherwise, it's not amazing. Shared Ride is actually really, really good right now because a lot of decks are doing a lot of searching and adding from graveyard and stuff. So if you can play Shared Ride, do play it. Especially if you're playing a deck like Salad or Sky Striker that can draw into hand traps. I think this card is great. Crossout is going to be S tier at the moment because, like I said, there are a lot of cards that we definitely know our opponent is going to be siding. And so as such, Crossout just has huge value, and if you're playing something like Despia that only really loses like the Ash and the D barrier, Crossout becomes even better. So really, really good card. Rivalry never really changes. Rivalry and associated hand traps, associated floodgates never really change. They're always kind of B tier. If your deck can play them, sometimes they're good, sometimes they're not. Rivalry is nice because we do have a lot of decks that are like kind of delving into different types and attributes, which is great. Soul Drain is okay. My problem with this card is that a lot of the times this is going to be irrelevant because it's not doing anything to the board. And so you need to hope your opponent's reliant on those graveyard and banished effects. And a lot of the times, if cards are in your opponent's graveyard or banished, they've done something on field with them already. So that's the problem with this card. So I'm actually going to move it down a little bit. But it's not bad, it's just not amazing. Skill Drain is good. If you can play Skill Drain, play it. But you just probably can't play it. Token Collector is STR. You've got to be cool with it. You need to either have one because you can send it, or play three because otherwise, because Brave's in the format and Sword Soul's in the format, it's just amazing. So you do need to see Token Collector. Some Limit's really good. I'm seeing a lot of Despia players taking in floodgates like Some Limit and There Can Be Only One, and it's just so hard to deal with after they've established a Despia board. So yeah, really, really good card. Different Dimension Ground is another, I'll say, high A tier side deck card that we're not seeing enough of. This card, after you've done your combo, if you make this, it's so hard for so many decks because you basically shut off their grave for the turn, which is amazing. And then what's even better about it is that it only sends monsters, so certain decks can really abuse it, like Sky Striker, where it's like all of your spells are still going to grave even if your monsters are banished, which is really nice. You don't really care about your Sky Striker links. Ray is the only monster that you care about being in the grave. So yeah, I do think DDG is great. Twin Twister, yeah, you need Backrow removal, it's just good. Super Poly is okay. The problem with Super Poly is that it doesn't beat Despia. It doesn't really beat Despia, and it doesn't really hit anything else. If you're playing Despia, play Super Poly, otherwise I don't think it's that good. Eradicate is actually good right now. The problem with Eradicate, and it's always historically been a similar thing, is that very few decks can actually play it. But if your deck can play Eradicator, it is a great card to play. I think more, as I'm saying this, I feel like I'm giving people ideas that I don't want them to have, but I'll do it anyway. More Despia players should play this card. More Despia players should play this card because you have so many targets in your deck and you can just win games for free because it's things like you just you use your Eradicator, tribute off your Mirror Jade or whatever that's already used this effect, and then now it's like your opponent has to lose all of their spells and traps and you get perfect knowledge. Card's amazing. Solemn Strike, yeah, if you can play it, play it. I'll say high BT. It's not amazing because it's a 1-for-1 treat and costs you life points, which is a bit risky at the moment, but still good. Droll should be in your main or side at the moment. To be honest, it should be in your main, but if it's not your main, definitely should be in your side. It hits so many decks. Really, really good card. Evenly has gone down a bit. It's still really good, but the problem with Evenly is just that a lot of decks have Omni Negate still with it, or can be like Despia and can kind of play around it so they don't lose a lot of resources. So Evenly, and also losing your battle phase isn't amazing. So Evenly is good, but I don't think it's as good as it was before. Talents is good, yeah. Should really be main deck, but it's a good side deck. It's also nice if you're playing a combo deck like Drytron. Flunder's basically a combo deck. So if you're playing like Drytron, your Flunders, your Punks, this card is really good into those hard Saladin Striker matchups and Live Twin matchups where they just want to hand trap you to death. Because what this allows you to do essentially is they hand trap you, you just peek in their hand, rip the other hand trap they have, and then OTK them before they can kind of get their resource game going. Droplets is the best side deck / main deck card in the game at the moment. You just need it. There's just too many unfair cards, and so Droplets just lets you say no to lots of things. So Droplets, yeah, side or main deck, it's the best card, in my opinion, undisputed. Dust is good. Again, back row removal, nothing really much to say about that. Silent Graveyard is a great card that people do not play enough of. Yes, you do have to discard, which is a bit of an issue. But again, similar, being able to turn off your opponent's grave is great. So I'm going to put it at the top of B tier. It's not necessarily as good as some of the ones in A tier, but it's still really good and has potential. Order is banned, so that's a shame. Lava Golem is really good if you can play it. So it's going to go next to Denko Sekka. Like, if you're playing Drytron, I think you should always be playing that. But otherwise, whatever. Gamma, I'd say Gamma, yeah, bottom of S tier. Really, really good card. The only thing apprehension I have with Gamma is that I feel like you should always be main decking it now. I don't think it should really be in your side deck just because it's so high value. But if you don't have a choice, yeah, put it in your side deck, because then at least going second you have access to it. Mirror Forces are bad. Yeah, don't play them unless you're trolling. Skullmaster's not amazing this format, so I'm going to put it quite low. Judgment, if you can play Judgment, if you're playing a trap deck, you need Judgment, so it's top of B tier as a card that if you can play it. Sphere Mode is always going to be a worse Lava Golem because it requires more cards. Even though there's a lot more decks that are putting loads of cards on the board, you need, obviously, first they need to be put loads of cards on the board, then it needs to be a deck that you need to be playing a deck that doesn't use normal summon. But it's still a good card. Goes in match, same as Rivalry, really nothing to say. Chalice is going to be a high A tier trap. Now, you don't want to trade for one right now. 1-for-1 often right now. However, if I was going to trade 1-for-1, this is pretty much the best card to trade 1-for-1 with, just because of the fact that it's a quick play. It's not really dead whether you're going first or second. Everything about it's nice. Even has other usages like beating over stuff in battle phase and stuff. So just really, really good card. Drowning Mirror Force is going to be, yes, on the bottom. Don't play it. D-Barrier, busted. Yeah, guys, D-Barrier just hits everything right now. It hits Despia, it hits Sword Soul, it hits Punk to an extent. I mean, it's just really, really nice card, and it's just unfair how many decks that just flower shuts the game. Despia are starting to play Brave literally just because they lose so hard to Ash in this card. So, I mean, that should tell you just how great it is. Red Reboot is also going to be an S tier side deck card. You should always really be playing Red Reboot if you have room for it, just because it just lets you shut out your opponent's trap deck, whatever, and kill them, which is just amazing. Pair this with a Lightning Storm, and it's just OP. Shifter is good if you can play it. If you're playing Flounder, play it, but you just probably can't play it. Nib is a good side deck card, so I'll put it at the bottom of S tier. The thing about Nib is that this is why I don't like Nib in the main deck, because if it's against a deck that you can use it against, that's such a weird way to say that. In some decks, Nib is amazing because you can actually resolve it, because they're not going to get a summon out. They're not going to get out before 5 summons. And so that's when it's amazing. So I like having the choice of Nib. I don't just want it sitting around in my main deck, because I don't want to come against a Flounder player and then I have a dead Nib in my hand that I can't even normal summon. Bell, yeah, I'd say bottom of C. If I'll put it D tier, yeah, don't side deck this card, main deck it or don't play it, in my opinion. Mystic Mine is going to be the third best card in the side deck of the moment. This card's good, people don't respect it, people just don't respect Mystic Mine, and Mystic Mine is free. If your opponent doesn't have an out, even if they have an out in their deck, this card will buy you time to win. So yeah, really, really busted card. I do think Mystic Mine is amazing. Zombie World, bottom of A tier. People are playing it a lot because of Flounder, but I don't even think it's that good, especially because Flounder players are prepared and they just have backrow removal for it. But yeah, if you're playing branded, yeah, it's free, so I guess there's that. Mistaken Arrest, this is definitely one to watch, and I think it's high A tier. It's basically Droll, but you can use it on your turn to stun your opponent if they're playing like Flounder or whatever. You've already got your resources, and you can set it to use it. So like, you do your combo turn 1, then you activate this in your end phase, and then now your opponent's basically drawed for their turn. So that's what's really good about Mistaken Arrest. I do think that's a great card as well. So yeah, guys, this is the side deck tier list after UK Nationals. Yeah, I definitely think this is about where it is. Right now, I'd say these top 5, you pretty much should be in every side deck at the moment. So at least one, if not all of them. And then the rest of the S tier is like, it depends on the deck you're playing and stuff like that, but they are all really good as well. Then everything else is kind of like down to choice. But yeah, anyway, guys, thank you all for watching, and I'll talk to you soon. Peace.